God, Tim. So next, we're going to be talking about universities. We're going to have a session talking about the critical role of universities in supporting the heartland and the attraction of tech talent and support of tech talent to local companies. So moderating the session is Kevin Klowden, Executive Director, Center of Regional Economics at the Milken Institute. And he's going to be talking with Dr. Mridul Gautam, VP of Research and Innovation at the University of Nevada, Reno. Tim Holcomb, Cintas Chair in Entrepreneurship at Miami University, and Zachary Ellis, Director of New Ventures at the Ohio State University. Welcome on. Did I get that right?
It's the Ohio State.
The Ohio State University, yeah.
It's in their branding. Thank you very much.
Good to see you again.
All right, to everyone, greetings. Just to let you know in terms of a little bit of background, why I'm here is because the Milken Institute, we're a non-partisan, nonprofit economic think tank, but we do studies like this one, which actually came out last year, specifically called Concept of Commercialization, talking about the key role of universities and tech transfer in building up economic ecosystems. As far as we are concerned, when you are going to build a cluster, a critical mass in an industry, it doesn't have to be all technologies, doesn't have to be in all ranges, it could be in the life sciences, it could be in software, it could be in hardware, it could be in various other kinds of innovation, doesn't matter. In order for a cluster to really develop and flourish, one of the key things you must have is talent, and you must have the support of a university or universities, not only for that talent, but also for the ideas. If you're going to be able to grow and successfully develop a cluster, it does not need to be in Silicon Valley, it does not need to be in New York, it does not, and quite honestly, if you want your talent to be able to afford a house, it really helps to be somewhere else. You know, we talk about selling quality of life, selling the opportunity to take chances, selling the opportunity for companies to be sustainable and grow. They need that kind of support, and at the core of that are the universities. And to discuss that ability to build an ecosystem and the roles that the universities play in it, we've got our three highly talented panelists that we're going to be talking to. So I'm going to be opportunistic, and I'm going to go to Zach because he's immediately to my left. And say, Zach, is at Ohio State, you're faced with a somewhat different task than many other research universities, not in traditional tech hubs, and that Columbus is not just a college town, it's actually a large, thriving city. I know you might consider it a mid-sized city, but for a lot of the cities in the heartland, it is rather large. By population, it's the largest city in Ohio. And it's got a number of different industries, including being a state capital. How do you not only differentiate yourself, but integrate yourself into that environment and demonstrate impact? And what comparative advantages you found from being in that environment?
Yeah, one of the things we've really sought to do is not to really attempt to differentiate ourselves, but to really participate in that ecosystem. I think a lot of what's happened in Columbus has really gone through and is because of Ohio State acting as a hub. So we have established, a few years ago, the regents of the university set aside $100 million, and they said we're going to create a funding continuum to build this ecosystem around entrepreneurship in Columbus and the Central Ohio region. And in doing so, they were able to establish a number of funds that go all the way from Series A in growth through funds like Drive Capital, all the way down to funds that are reserved more so for de-risking technology while it's still within the university, which is something we manage internally, and everything in between. So we've got seed, we've got concept, we've got Series A, and we've got growth. And we recruit entrepreneurs from all across the region and across the state to come partner with our inventors and take out these technologies into companies, and we connect them with capital, and then we also are managing relationships across the country with the Kleiners and everyone else across the country on the East Coast, West Coast, and in the middle.
Great. Now, Tim, I'm going to contrast you because the fact that you're also from Ohio, but from a slightly smaller location in Oxford. But you've been dealing with a number of different dynamics. Innovation's increasing at an exponential rate. We are actually historically in one of the most innovative, probably the most innovative time ever in some ways, and possibly even if you go back to you'd have to go back to the beginning of the Industrial Revolution otherwise. And to cope with this, regional economies need to invest in resources that catalyze the formation of startups and develop new technologies to accelerate business growth. In 2015, Ernst & Young did a white paper on startup ecosystems that talked about 5 elements: startups, major corporations, the government, investment community, and educational institutions. What way does your university, let alone any others, take a more active role in the resurgent role of entrepreneurial activity in the heartland?
Well, it's a great question, Kevin. Thank you. And I think having the universities here is really a good example of the importance of talent. We heard from several of the millennial founders earlier this morning, Tim Wang and Colleen Costello, talk about the importance of talent and the draw of having universities. Zach, and I'm sure Mridul will talk a little bit about the focus of research, the focus of universities in developing research and or new technology through research and commercializing that technology. I think there also are a couple of other areas where the universities can play an active role in the regional ecosystem. One is infusing young students with the right exposure to skills and talent, but also combining that with opportunities to practice. We talk a lot about the T-shaped student. And at Miami, we've created a program that is it's a co-major. We don't encourage students necessarily to major in entrepreneurship. We expect them to major in engineering or bring a technical discipline, and then combine that with an entrepreneurship degree where they actually apply that through co-ops, internships, through more practice-based co-curricular activities. So I think one of the important things that universities can do is not only develop the technical talent, but give students, whether they're undergraduates or graduates, an opportunity to get shots on goal, so to speak, to actually practice, to apply what they're learning, whether it's in a controlled safety net of the university, or whether it's actually working as a member of the entrepreneurial ecosystem. I think the other thing that's really important for universities to do is to really capitalize on this symbiotic relationship with the ecosystem. It's one thing to bring founders and investors onto campus and interact with our students and our faculty, but it's also equally important for us to do what Zach described of reaching out into the community in ways that we can connect with that. And there are lots of ways that universities can do that. At Miami, we as Tim had mentioned, Centrifuge, a syndicated fund to fund. We actually put our financial capital to play in that fund as a good steward in the community. We also have our faculty that are actively involved in several of the major accelerators, the Brandery, Ocean, and Uptech, working actively as mentors.
Thanks. And actually, that brings up just one observation to add to that is that the support of the community and the engagement of the community is incredibly important. Years ago, we did work in Florida, and including a bit of work with the University of Florida at the time, and they are and have been one of the leading tech transfer university programs in the country. But they had a real problem retaining companies because they had issues both in terms of funding gaps, and they had issues in terms of support of the local community. The local community wouldn't even let them build an incubator space in Gainesville. They got isolated out of town somewhere else. So those two issues were both significant hurdles in terms of retaining the spin-offs and creating that ecosystem. They've addressed that somewhat since then, but it is something to be very mindful of. Now, since we are in beautiful Reno, it's really important for us to be able to talk about what's going on here. So Mridul, what's going on in Reno? Dave Archer is the president and CEO of the Nevada Center of Entrepreneurship and Technology, credits the University of Nevada, Reno for sparking the turnaround of innovation and entrepreneurship of the culture here. what is going on here and what's Reno's secret? And by that I mean the good one, not the one at the gambling tables.
Yeah, regrettably, I just have a few minutes over here. I could go on for hours with what's going on. But thank you for this opportunity to share with you how, and this is the key, how we have aligned ourselves with the industry and the government and actually contributing to the Nevada statewide economic goals. Now, in this state, as you've heard, and in this region in particular, you have these high energy, vibrant innovation ecosystems which are emerging. And it just didn't happen overnight. We are a public university. Today, more so than ever before, public universities have a moral imperative to be the leaders and be part of the leadership. And we assume that role, the leadership role, in promoting growth of these research innovation ecosystems that create the high-paying tech jobs and growth of wealth. So if you ask me at the end of the day, what's this all about? It's jobs and wealth. High-paying tech jobs. And why tech jobs? Because they come with higher disposable income, and they support more service jobs, and you can have more more wealth created because of IP and equity creation. And so that's really, really, really important. So here's the issue, right? Most universities, we've been around for a few hundred years. And we in academia are stodgy. We know how to say no. We know how to say, can't do it. We don't want to collaborate with anybody. The difference in this place is we are responsive, we are adaptive, we are flexible, we work with the community, we work with the statewide and the regional and the local economic development authorities, the local governments, the angel groups in Incline. We have actually in the past, so if you were to summarize that, past 2 years, 108 high-tech, high-paying jobs, 4 venture funds created because we had the opportunity, 6 spin-out companies, over 70 companies we're engaged with. So we had 2 options: either sit back and complain, as most of us are trained to do, and not respond, or say, we're going to be responsive, we're going to change, and we'll make ourselves available to whoever needs us. Michael Rowland pointed out that there's talent everywhere. There's talent, and there are universities everywhere. What we decided was that we have to offer everybody and anybody an opportunity that's beyond what other people cannot. Everybody has a strength. Silicon Valley has its strength, and all you heard was, we got to be another Silicon Valley. Well, you cannot be another Silicon Valley. They have 80 years ahead on you with defense money and everything else. We have to be who we are with the strengths we have, and we chose to offer this huge infrastructure at a university with labs and equipment that you can never believe. One company couldn't afford that. So, and we have 3 shifts in a day. And I can guarantee you that most labs are not working 3 shifts a day. And most likely they are not working 2 shifts a day. And I can bet there are some labs that never open up at all during the daytime. Can you imagine making that infrastructure available to the entrepreneurs who need a microscope or need an SEM? We've done that. We've done that through agreements which have been already vetted by the General Counsel, and we can move faster than any, and that's a challenge, than any company who comes to us, and we can tell you it's available, and we can make it happen. So working with the community, making ourselves flexible and responsive, and opening our infrastructure to everybody else was, I think, the key. And working with the community, and what the city did for us, and at the end of the day, investors want the money. Companies want to do well. The Workforce Development Group want to create jobs. We at the university have got to do everything, and we actually have to be the ones who are the glue that puts everything together. And we believe that's the key over here in Reno, and why it's so vibrant.
One thing that came up as a theme for everybody, and it's in addition to the element of risk-taking, is the talent side. I think in order to, as you talked about, is you need to give talent the opportunity and open things up. But how do you not only attract but retain that talent? Because if you don't have not only the students but the researchers and the faculty, you can't grow things no matter how much money you throw at it. I can think of several examples around the country where, or even internationally, where people have thrown the money and it hasn't stuck because they've needed that talent. So for each of you, is it, how do you do that? How do you attract and retain that talent?
You know, I would say first and foremost, we're lucky enough that in Columbus, it's a fairly well-sized city that has a lot of resources. So there are lots of job opportunities that can be somewhat sticky for talent, and so it's fairly straightforward to attract from within that ecosystem. But additionally, as we really grow our entrepreneurial efforts and get the word out about that, there's also huge loyalty not only to the state of Ohio but to the Buckeye brand, and so we've put on a few Boomeranger events, and students who have graduated from OSU and gone to work at Facebook and Google and others and Twitter, et cetera, have actively said, hey, this is really cool, really exciting, and I would love the opportunity to come back. Please keep me posted as things happen, things evolve. How can I find out about job opportunities here? Because I would love to come back from San Francisco to Columbus.
Yeah, I think it is a big issue. We live in, we're 30 minutes outside of Cincinnati, also a good-sized city as well, so there are lots of opportunities, but we still struggle with, students, once they graduate, wanting to go to Chicago, which is still in the heartland, or New York or Silicon, into the Bay Area. One of the things that we're doing is, again, with this connectivity with the community, not every student that comes through the university is going to go start a company. That's highly unlikely, but a number of our graduates want to be a part of the entrepreneurial ecosystem, and in order for them to really understand what it's like to work in a highly dynamic, uncertain, risky, quickly changing, evolving environment, we actually put them into the startup and high growth, into startups and high growth through programs like our Altman internship program. And we do that in Chicago and Cincinnati and actually in the Bay Area as well. It really exposes students who have technical disciplines, whether it's digital marketing or interactive media studies or computer science, engineering, to that entrepreneurial ecosystem. The other thing, and I think Zach already hit on that, and Tim talked about it earlier, it's important for us to also maintain relationships and connectivity with our alumni. At Miami, Adam Bain was former Chief Operating Officer of Twitter. Brian Graves, former Chief Operating Officer of Uber. Martin Levine, current COO of Instagram, are all Miami grads. And so it's important for us to look for ways to bring them back and connect with with students and local alumni as well.
So nothing happens in isolation, right? You can have silos, and you cannot just have students get out and get a job. You cannot just retain students, and how long do you retain them? So our students were leaving the university, going elsewhere. 4 years ago, since this entire concept of being one with the community changed and attracting large, like Governor Sandoval said yesterday, the Teslas and the Switch and the Apples and the Googles and everybody coming here. We at this university, being as flexible as we were, we can provide minors to the companies, whether it's in autonomous systems, or it's in battery technology, or it's manufacturability, and a whole host of other minors and courses. That gives them a career path to where we have to go. Look, today, everything is changing. The jobs are changing, careers are changing, the way we transport ourselves from one place to the other is changing. The health and well-being standards have changed, and how it's delivered, what we eat has changed. Our kids have changed in my lifetime several times in a year. The attitude change. You've got to be able to understand what's going on. So when we said, while these big companies are coming here and establishing themselves, we at the university decided we're going to attract high-tech, high-growth companies by offering them something that they don't get anywhere else. Roger Chen, I saw him here today. He sold his business in California for a few $100 million, something.
Something.
And that's his money. He wanted to have a new startup. Now, those who have their own money want to save every penny they've got. They decided to come here, and we gave them space, and they opened shop. They hired people in town, and they hired students, they hired interns, and that's just one story. We have 15 of them on campus. We have another 17, 18, 19 of them at the Innovation Center. You were there yesterday. And the students who get these initial jobs as interns, and Elizabeth Luan is there, who's an entrepreneurship genius. If you need any interns, talk to her. She's at the end of the room up there in the corner. So we are offering folks an opportunity at the university level with new startups coming in. We're creating our own talent. In the past year, this university has achieved record levels of following a strategic plan, very aggressive in its mission, record levels of enrollment, retention, diversity, faculty achievement, entrepreneurship, you name it. This gives them opportunities over here. As interns, they get jobs over here. They have their own spin-outs. And for those 108 jobs that were created, they'll have their own companies created, and they'll hire more people. So it's a mix of things, and you've got to be part of the community, be part of the whole ecosystem, and that's what counts.
One thing I just want to follow up on the talent side, because that is our panel, is that there's the faculty side. What do you do to recruit talented faculty in, and how do you facilitate them, particularly in terms of tech transfer and taking chances?
Reputation is a currency.
I mean, so we've initiated a number of targeted hiring practices to, look for professors who are doing work in AI, in big data, et cetera, and encouraging them. We're building. My function resides within the Office of Technology Transfer, so we're actively reaching out, building relationships with these professors, letting them know that we're here for them to not only take their disclosures and inventions, but to encourage them to be entrepreneurial, and will provide support. So I think when you can present a sort of programmatic package, if you will, that encourages that sort of behavior, they will respond.
Tim?
Great question. And I'm smiling because how many tenured faculty are in the room right now? 2 out of 250 attendees. It's an issue. It's a big issue. I mean, as we look at the incentives for faculty, and we look at just the academic community itself, it's a challenge. I spent 20 years in corporate. I was at Accenture for 13. I've started 4 companies. I am the exception who decided to go back to school and get a PhD, and did that, and then got back into the classroom. At Miami, we have a mix. We have 12 full-time faculty in our entrepreneurship program, only 4 tenure track. We attract very senior talent using, not surprisingly, money to get them there. We have several clinical chairs that we use to bring them in. And the reality is, for those that aren't familiar with the academic community, a lot of the time and the way in which tenured faculty are evaluated are based on research or grant dollars, and may or may not be measured on the basis of their ability and interest at commercializing technology or helping students start businesses. So it's a big issue, and be honest with you, we don't teach students about entrepreneurship. In my opinion, it's a failed model. We teach them to do it. And really the only way they do that is working outside the classroom, as Mridul had mentioned, working collaboratively with faculty, but it takes faculty being intentional. And to be quite honest, it's a very special person. But for us, we attract by giving incentives, frankly, financial incentives, but also giving the opportunity for them to work with students who have a real passion to go do something fun.
So the University of Nevada, Reno is hiring 300 to 400 new faculty starting about 2 years ago. That is unprecedented anywhere in the country. Along with faculty come their starter packages and equipment and grad students and support staff. And what we've done is, so we define the areas, working with the Governor's Office of Economic Development. We have this huge program in applied research and robotics and UAVs, and that has created opportunities in big data and robotics, obviously, automation, and it helps us attract faculty because we have the infrastructure to do that. The other thing that we've done is, which again is, I thought was, we had to do that, is faculty will typically do what they have to do to be tenured and promoted: research, teaching, and service. Well, they won't do entrepreneurship unless you have a history of doing that, as in the Bay Area and other places in Boston. We made entrepreneurship and entrepreneurial activity one of the 4 criteria for the promotion tenure. If you do entrepreneurial activity, it will be counted towards your promotion tenure. I thought that was very unique. Now, not only that, and the Board of Regents went along, and it sailed smoothly through the process. In addition to providing that opportunity to do entrepreneurial activity and be counted towards the promotion criteria, we are providing them with very early proof of concept funds to take the science experiment off the bench and put a box and paint it a certain color and see if it works. And then working with our investors in the region and the Sierra Angels and the funds that have been created over here, and the Intervention Fund, again, from the governor's office, provide them with some more resources. And if it makes sense, well, one of those investor groups will hold their hand and move them forward, and it is happening. So that's how you attract talent and try to keep it here.
So hopefully everybody's managed to learn the lesson from our amazing panelists, and want to thank all of you and to thank each of you for giving your insights. And everyone, thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. So we're going to break for lunch. We have a request from you. We're going to be handing out surveys. So we'd love your feedback on each individual session, to the extent that it's physically possible to fill out reviews on all the sessions that you attended and what you think. But more generally, if you don't have that time, we'd love that input. If you don't have time, just give us your general feedback specifically.